There is no shortage of television shows depicting frontier life, and determining what makes a great Wild West series can be quite subjective. Various series such as The Life and Legend of Wyatt Earp, 1955, bring well-known historical figures, classic Western themes, and familiar tropes to life, aiming to entertain while adding a touch of authenticity. Conversely, shows like Wild Wild West, 1965, push the boundaries of historical accuracy, incorporating imaginative concepts into their elaborate and adventurous storylines. This series, while far from being a historical document, offers a creative twist on the genre. Classic westerns, including Bonanza, Gunsmoke, and more recently Deadwood, have built dedicated fan bases through their engaging storytelling and character development. However, despite their popularity, these series often fall short of providing a true-to-life portrayal of the Old West. How accurate are these Old West series? And in what ways do they miss the mark when it comes to authenticity? Gunsmoke. Gunsmoke, which originally started as a radio show, aired from 1955 to 1975. The series starred James Arness as Marshal Matt Dillon, the lawman responsible for maintaining order in Dodge City. Unlike many portrayals of the Wild West, Gunsmoke did not offer a romanticized view. Instead, it depicted the real challenges of frontier life, including cattle rustling, disputes over land and resources, and threats of violence. The show also made a deliberate effort to portray often marginalized or stereotyped groups more accurately. According to writer John Meston, Gunsmoke was among the first to represent Native Americans as complex characters rather than as mere stereotypes. Meston noted that the series tackled themes such as intermarriage and the buffalo, and it included women and minorities in its storylines. Additionally, Gunsmoke was known for its willingness to deliver less than happy endings, reflecting a more realistic portrayal of frontier life. Despite its grittier take on the Old West, Gunsmoke had several notable inaccuracies. Although the series was set in Kansas, it was filmed in locations that resembled a more arid landscape than Kansas would typically offer. Moreover, the character of Marshal Dillon was depicted as a U.S. Marshal, which is historically problematic. In reality, U.S. Marshals were responsible for entire states, and Dillon's role would have required him to be a deputy marshal if he were part of the Marshal Service. This discrepancy highlights a significant departure from historical accuracy in the show's portrayal of law enforcement. Rawhide. Rawhide, which aired from 1959 to 1965, was pivotal in launching Clint Eastwood's career and is renowned for its memorable theme song. The series focused on the daily lives and challenges faced by trail drivers on the frontier, particularly featuring Gil Favor, portrayed by Eric Fleming, and Rowdy Yates, played by Eastwood. The show was notable for its realistic depiction of the difficulties involved in cattle drives, such as locating water, dealing with banditry, coping with severe weather, and managing illnesses. Gil Favor, as depicted by Fleming, was described by writer Ellen Thorpe as a compelling representation of an honest, strong, and intelligent hero with a profound sense of justice and morality. Rawhide maintained a somber tone, even in its black and white format, with storylines that included themes of addiction, deceit, and ghost towns, contributing to an eerie atmosphere. As Rawhide progressed, particularly in its later years, it began to lose its original atmospheric edge, opting instead for cliches and sensational stunts to boost ratings. The departure of Eric Fleming in 1964 marked a further decline in the show's quality. Despite its strong start, Rawhide eventually succumbed to more superficial elements. Additionally, a notable anachronism was the depiction of Gil Favor wearing Wrangler jeans, which were not available in the 1860s, highlighting a glaring historical inaccuracy. Lonesome Dove. The Lonesome Dove franchise, including both a miniseries and a television series, is based on the novels by Larry McMurtry. The adaptations closely adhered to McMurtry's detailed work, reflecting his deep understanding of the subject. Literary editor Leon Fieseltier praised McMurtry for his immersive knowledge of history, geography, and mythology, noting that McMurtry's grasp of the material was evident without seeming forced. The series went to considerable lengths to maintain historical accuracy, such as using Mexican corrientes, cattle when longhorns were unavailable, as they closely resembled the types of cattle present during the frontier era. The costuming in Lonesome Dove was also carefully selected to mirror the period, although it disappointed Stephen Harrington, a writer turned extra, who was given a derby hat instead of a Stetson. Despite Harrington's dissatisfaction, derby hats or bowlers were indeed the most popular headwear of the time. Despite its commitment to authenticity, Larry McMurtry himself admitted that Lonesome Dove might have leaned towards idealization rather than harsh realism. McMurtry reflected that he might have created something closer to a Gone with the Wind of the West, rather than a stark portrayal of frontier life. The visual adaptation, particularly the miniseries, was critiqued for over-dramatizing the narrative. According to the New York Times, the miniseries succumbed to cliches, exaggerated caricatures, and conventional tropes, and was criticized for its slow pacing, which detracted from its overall impact. The High Chaparal. The High Chaparal aired from 1967 to 1971, featuring Leif Erikson as Big John Cannon, a rancher in Arizona residing on Apache land near the Mexican border. The show also starred Cameron Mitchell as Cannon's brother, Buck, and Mark Slade as his son, Billy Blue. In a deliberate effort to authentically depict life in the American Southwest, the High Chaparral cast Native American actors in Apache roles and Latinos in Latino roles. The series immediately addressed the perils of frontier life with the dramatic abduction and death of Cannon's wife, Anna Lee, by members of the Apache tribe. Cannon later marries Victoria, the daughter of a Mexican rancher, played by Argentinian-American actress Linda Cristal. Her father, Don Sebastian Montoya, was portrayed by Frank Silvera, a Jamaican actor. The show also highlighted ethnic diversity by featuring Henry Darrow, of Puerto Rican descent, as Victoria's brother, Manolito. The High Chaparral set itself apart from more conventional shows by incorporating real-life diversity into both its narrative and its cast. It presented characters who, while not idealized like those from Bonanza, were portrayed with greater complexity and respect. Creator David Dortort, known for Bonanza, aimed for historical accuracy, yet the High Chaparral faced challenges in its final season. The show, praised for its depiction of the American Southwest's beauty and diversity, experienced a decline in both viewership and realism, partly due to the loss of key cast members like Mark Slade. By its final season, the show struggled with diminished authenticity and a more predictable storyline, leading to a decline in fan support. The Sun, TV series 2017-2019. Starring Pierce Brosnan, The Sun spans several decades, chronicling the life of Eli McCullough from his childhood to adulthood. Adapted from Philip Meyer's novel The Sons, the series offers a detailed portrayal of McCullough's experiences while exploring interactions and conflicts between the Comanche Nation and the Garcia family in the American West. McCullough's narrative begins with his family's murder by Native Americans and his own kidnapping as a child. Unlike many traditional depictions of frontier violence, The Sun places the complexities of settlement and territorial encroachment at its core. Showrunner Kevin Murphy explains that while the Comanche may initially appear harsh, their extreme measures are a response to a brutal environment. As the series progresses, viewers encounter other perspectives, such as those of white Texas Rangers, buffalo hunters disrupting the Comanche's food sources, and the Tonkawa tribe, longtime adversaries of the Comanche. This broader view helps contextualize the Comanche's actions within the harsh realities of their world. The series employed Native American consultants and actors to ensure historical authenticity. Philip Meyer, the author of the original novel, immersed himself in the subject by consuming buffalo blood, learning the Comanche language, and undergoing wilderness survival training to grasp the challenges faced by his characters. The Sun is selective in its portrayal of Native American tribes, reflecting the producers' and directors' careful choices. Although the series accurately represents the exploitation of captives, it strives to avoid focusing excessively on the more violent aspects of Comanche life, particularly their treatment of women. The creators have engaged in extensive discussions to balance historical accuracy with sensitivity in their depiction. Bonanza. Ben Cartwright, portrayed by Lorne Greene, and his sons, Adam, played by Pernell Roberts, Eric, played by Dan Blocker, and Joseph, played by Michael Landon, were central figures on Bonanza, which entertained viewers for 14 seasons. Created by David Dortor, who also developed the High Chaparal, Bonanza aimed to provide a sense of realism in its portrayal of family life and saloon culture. Dortor's commitment to historical authenticity led Bonanza to address relevant issues of the time, such as animal poaching and prospecting, with genuine concern. While the affectionate dynamic among the Cartwrights was not entirely unrealistic, it was accentuated due to Lorne Greene's influence. The show also incorporated elements of comedy and romance to enhance its appeal, and it addressed some 20th century issues alongside those of the 19th century. However, Bonanza was not particularly gritty or realistic in its depiction of frontier hardships. Each episode typically concluded with a positive resolution, often achieved by one of the Cartwright sons. The series relied heavily on stereotypes and was noted for its lack of diversity, offering a mix of adventurous entertainment and family-friendly programming, rather than a detailed historical account. Hell on Wheels. Hell on Wheels, which aired on A&E for 5 seasons, follows Cullen Bohannon, portrayed by Anson Mount, a former Confederate soldier who becomes involved in railroad construction in the American West. The series explores the trials and prospects of westward expansion, providing highly detailed portrayals of the camps where people lived and worked on the frontier. The show draws on historical sources, including descriptions from 19th century journalist Samuel Bowles, who is believed to have coined the term Hell on Wheels to describe the chaotic nature of settlements along the expanding Transcontinental Railroad. While Hell on Wheels does not claim to be a strictly historical account, it incorporates some elements of realism. However, the series has faced criticism for presenting modern attitudes towards prejudice. The interactions between Bohannon and Elam Ferguson, a former enslaved person played by Common, are sometimes viewed as reflecting 1960s sensibilities rather than those of the 1860s. Additionally, critics have pointed out that the show's depiction of encampments with their narrow streets is impractical for an era when freight was transported by horse and wagon, requiring ample space for maneuvering. The town's grid layout would have made open prairie visible from both ends of the main street, adding to the inaccuracies in its depiction. Godless TV miniseries 2017. Godless is set in the mining town of La Belle, New Mexico, where the absence of men has led women to assume leadership roles. This town is inspired by real ghost towns that were abandoned due to a lack of resources or manpower, as researched by the show's creator, Scott Frank. In Godless, the women of La Belle are portrayed as strong and capable, reflecting some of the rights and responsibilities that women in the West had, which were often not afforded to their Eastern counterparts. Audrey Moore, who stars in the show, found this representation particularly compelling, emphasizing that it is inaccurate to depict Western women as merely passive figures. Instead, women in the West were actively involved in various roles such as managing businesses, distilling whiskey, and ensuring their family's survival, displaying courage and independence. The series also highlights the constant threat of outlaws, represented by the conflict between Frank Griffin, played by Jeff Daniels, and Roy Good, played by Jack O'Connell. Scott Frank intentionally included traditional Western elements, such as wild horse taming, gunfights, and train robberies, which might not always align with historical accuracy, but serve to honor the genre's conventions and provide engaging entertainment. The Virginian. Based on Owen Wister's 1902 novel, The Virginian television series began as an extension of the show Decision. Airing from 1962 to 1971, The Virginian was one of the many popular Western series of the era, centering on the foreman of the Shiloh Ranch, known simply as The Virginian. The show featured a rotating cast of supporting and guest actors, reflecting the transient and evolving nature of life on the American frontier. Much like the novel, which is considered one of the earliest cowboy westerns, the series presented an idealized view of the American West through its morally upright yet enigmatic protagonist. The inclusion of diverse and well-developed characters garnered praise for the show, though it also led to frequent changes in everything from costumes to cast members, contributing to some inconsistency. Randy Boone, one of the actors on the series, noted that the costumes lacked historical accuracy. He pointed out that the belts used on the show, designed with modern technology for easy draw, did not realistically reflect the period. These belts were rigid and optimized for quick access, but they did not accurately represent the attire of the time. Maverick TV series, 1957-1962. Maverick, which originally featured James Garner as Brett Maverick, aired from 1957 to 1962. The show followed Brett, along with his brother Bart, played by Jack Kelly, and their cousin Bo Maverick, portrayed by Roger Moore, as they traveled across the American West. Throughout its run, Garner and Kelly alternated as the lead characters in various episodes. The show aimed to capture an authentic atmosphere of card playing, incorporating railroad footage to enhance its Western ambiance. Maverick stood out from other Westerns of the time for its humor. Both Brett and Bart Maverick were depicted as charismatic and clever, often using their charm to navigate through various predicaments. James Garner himself described Maverick as presenting a highly idealized version of the Old West. The show portrayed its characters as reluctant heroes with a strong sense of morality, offering a more lighthearted and less gritty perspective compared to many other Westerns. Deadwood TV series. The HBO series Deadwood and its subsequent film feature a host of historical figures among its vibrant cast of characters. Prominent figures such as Wyatt Earp, portrayed by Gail Harold, Calamity Jane, played by Robin Weigert, and Wild Bill Hickok, brought to life by Keith Carradine, are woven into the fabric of the narrative. The series also includes less well-known but authentic historical figures, such as Alma Garrett, played by Molly Parker, Sol Starr, portrayed by John Hawkes, and E.B. Farnham, depicted by William Sanderson. The show does a commendable job of reflecting the diverse and often challenging lives of immigrant workers in the American West. It accurately depicts the significant presence of Chinese laborers who lived in the Badlands area of Deadwood, adding depth to the portrayal of the town's demographic composition. However, the series blends historical fact with creative license, resulting in a portrayal that may not always align perfectly with historical realities. For example, while Seth Bullock, played by Timothy Oliphant, and Sol Starr did indeed open a store in Deadwood, the series takes dramatic liberties by showing Bullock marrying his brother's widow, a scenario not supported by historical records. The show is also known for its distinctive use of profanity, which, while contributing to its gritty and authentic feel, does not entirely reflect the actual language of the 1870s. The frequent use of strong expletives, particularly by the character Al Swearingen, played by Ian McShane, is a deliberate choice to convey the harshness of life in that era. While profanity was certainly present in the historical Deadwood, it was not as explicitly graphic as depicted in the series. This artistic decision serves to underscore the brutal realities of the time for contemporary viewers who might be less impacted by milder forms of language. The Rifleman. For 5 seasons, The Rifleman centered on Lucas McCain, portrayed by Chuck Connors, a U.S. Civil War veteran, widower, and rancher residing in the New Mexico territory. The series was notable for its progressive portrayal of a single-parent household, with McCain raising his young son, Mark, independently. This depiction of a father managing both parenting and ranching responsibilities was quite innovative for its time. However, the show had a notable historical inaccuracy concerning the rifle that was central to its premise. The series, named after the Winchester Model 1892 rifle that McCain frequently used, inaccurately featured a firearm that did not actually exist during the time period depicted in the show. The Winchester Model 1892 was designed and manufactured more than a decade after the events portrayed in The Rifleman. This anachronism highlights a significant gap between the historical accuracy of the show's setting and the technological details presented, reflecting a common issue in period dramas, where accuracy in props and equipment often lags behind the storytelling. As we've seen, while many TV shows about the Old West entertain with dramatic flair and adventurous plots, the truly standout series are those that strike a balance between captivating storytelling and historical accuracy. From the rugged realism of Hell on Wheels to the nuanced portrayal in The Sun, these shows not only bring the past to life, but also honor the complex and often overlooked realities of the frontier. For anyone passionate about the Wild West, these series offer a richer, more authentic glimpse into a world that continues to fascinate and inspire. If you enjoy exploring these interesting histories with us, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more in-depth articles and videos about the Old West and beyond. Join our community and stay updated with the latest in Western history and entertainment. Hit that subscribe button and saddle up for more.